Hello, 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 and welcome to round 6 here of Cross Touring Cup, brought to you by none other than Slow Motion Broadcasting. My name is Adam Thompson. In the commentary booth is Alex Anderson. Tonight, we are at Road America, which is a motorsport road course located near Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, United States, obviously, on Wisconsin Highway 67. It has hosted races since the 1950s and currently hosts races in the NASCAR Cup and Xfinity Series, WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, IndyCar Series, SCCA Pirelli World Challenge, ASRA, AMA Superbike Series, and SCCA Pro Racing's Trans Am Series. We're at Road America tonight, Alex. I think this is going to be a pretty good setup for these cars. This track, both of these types of cars, GT3s and TCR, should get on well here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Road America. I personally like this track a lot. You know, you've got a bunch of nice 90-degree low-speed corners, then high-speed corners that you really have to get the car turned in well to make it through fast, like the carousel. And personally, I think we're in for a great race here. You've got fantastic drivers in both the TCR and GT3 series, and with the way you have to drive these cars around here, I really think we're in a good night here.
Yeah, I think we are as well, and we're about to get in here on some action. We're going to follow along here real quick with Chad Seep. All these guys, we had just gotten in here into qualifying. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and hop on here with the one of the two Canadians in tonight's field in Chad Seep, the other one being Kerry Cantera. Chad is in the TCRs, while Kerry is in a GT3 tonight. We have a pretty big field here tonight, Alex. This is bigger than what we've had in weeks past. We've got about 10 or 11 drivers here, so we are missing Bobby Ross and Josh Clogg, I believe, two of maybe the quickest drivers there in the GT3 class, other than Kerry Cantera. Well, Jake Ham's actually pretty quick in that class as well.
Yeah, and with that, I don't want to hype them up too much, but personally, in my opinion, I would say that Bobby Ross and Josh Clogg are the two fastest drivers that we have for the GT3 class. If you look up front, they're always neck and neck racing each other for the lead. So with those two not being here, it's kind of like when a high-ranking team has wrecked out of an event and everybody else can scramble for a win. So everybody else towards the rear of the field is dead on even. I'm talking great racing back there between all of them. You know, you got Paul Mikolajczyk, you got Kerry Cantera, James Howitt, all of those guys. And I think that they are going to set us up for a fantastic race here for the win at Road America.
Yeah, so we just kind of went through here the championship standings for the GT3s. Jimmy Howitt, Whitner, Darling, Coates, and Ham. That's backwards, of course. I should have gone front to back, so let me do that for you. Bobby Ross not with us here tonight with 124 points. Kerry Cantera is with us tonight. Has a chance to really cut into that lead of Bobby. If he can win this race, he will gain about 35 points. So that will cut into that Bobby's lead quite a bit with Paul Mikolajczyk there with 71, and then it gets real close. Josh Clogg not going to be here tonight, so Jake Ham has a chance to catch up to him, who right now is in 5th with Tyler Coates there in 6th. And look at how close these points are down there between Tyler and Jake, with Jaden Darling there with 44 points, kind of sitting in the middle between Eric Whitner and Tyler, who Eric is in 8th with 29 points, and Jimmy Howitt back there in 9th with 24. Never seems to want to finish the race with Darian Lozano, who I don't think we've seen here for the past few weeks. But here into the TCRs, I'll let you take him through it.
Yeah, and going through the TCRs, Eduardo Pecorini, no big surprise there. One of the fastest guys that we have seen for the TCR class, easily leading points. And I gotta come clean here. I don't see the TCR points right now, so I'm gonna give it right back to you.
I will take us through it. Eduardo Pecorini is actually not leading the TCR points here.
My condolences.
At the moment. Robert Schwenkler with 47 points and Chad Seep with 46. Eduardo back there in 3rd with 44, but he missed a few races at the beginning of the season. James Keir with 35. Kevin Irwin also with 35. Brendan Horn with... Is Brennan racing tonight? I don't see Brennan in here either, but Brendan Horn with 34 points and Jerry DiPiero with 34 points as well. So, pretty close racing back here in the TCR class at the moment. We are about 5 minutes into qualifying. we'll go here into the race. Try to find somebody who is about to start a lap here if we can, and it appears as if Kerry Cantera is about to. So we'll go on board here with Kerry and Alex. If you can see it, we'll let you take him through the lap.
Unfortunately, I do apologize. I still cannot see what we're looking at. So, Adam, I'm going to give this one to you for a little bit, and I'm going to figure this out on my own.
All right, sounds good. So he has just come through turn 1, about to come up into turn 2. So this track is very, very quick. As you can see, Kerry right now, if we can get the dashboard pulled up here, if I can find it, he's moving pretty quick. He's doing 120 miles an hour, and this next whole Section 2 complex basically is extremely tough. You've got 2 hard lefts coming up here, and then he's going to start coming into that carousel section. So there's that first one, turn 5, into turn 6 right now underneath the bridge, and here comes turn 7. And then he's going to go down. Hurry Downs is the name of this straightaway. No idea why. Maybe somebody in the YouTube chat will know. And then a hard left here. And then he gets into this carousel section, but he gets a little bit wide there. See if he keeps going with the lap. He does. This is a lot harder than it looks because this section just goes on and on and on forever. It's still going. Look at this. It just keeps going. He's being super careful around there. And now he's on the gas. It looks like he's actually backed off here on this lap. I think he has made a mistake, so he's just decided to take another lap around. But, oh, never mind. Oh, he's on the gas, he's off the gas. He's on the gas, he's off the gas. He's trying to make me a liar. I don't know exactly what he's doing. But anyways, here into turn 12, known as Canada Corner. Definitely had to stay on here with Kerry for this one, of course. And then here into 13, which is known as the Bill Mitchell Bend. And then finally turn 14, and it'll take you down this very long straightaway back down into turn 1. We will see exactly what Kerry can do with that lap, as he doesn't do anything because he comes into the pits. So let's see who else is out on track at the moment. Looks like we got Paul Mikolajczyk here, as well as Kevin Irwin, actually setting some pretty good sector times. See what he can do. He runs a 2:05.667. Which cannot be correct at all. It appears, I have no idea what's going on. That was Jaden Darling that just ran that time. I think all of the overlays are messing up tonight. So if you guys give me 1 second, I'm going to do a good old-fashioned reset on this and see if we can actually get something to pop up like I want it to.
Hopefully we can do that. And just want to take a moment and talk about Paul Mikolajczyk here for a second. I know my overlays are a bit bugged out right now, still working on that, but I want to talk about Paul Mikolajczyk. We've seen him run up front so many times. He's a fantastic driver, and he's done really well in this series so far. And I honestly wouldn't be shocked if he can break through one of these times and get a win. And with some of the top dogs not here, I think this place is the best spot for him to do that. He's very fast. We've seen it before. It just looks like just little errors here and there just throw him out of contention. So if he can keep that car under him and just try and muscle it around for 45 minutes, I think he'll have a good shot at the win here.
Yeah, he definitely should. And we can go and ride watching along here with Paul as he crosses the line. We'll see exactly what kind of lap times he can run in relation to Kerry, who up there right now with the 2:05.667. Paul runs a 2:07.284 that lap, and it looks like he's going to give it one more shot. We're about 9 minutes into this 15-minute qualifying, so they do still have plenty of time to get out there, get some laps run, and see what they can do. But right now, Paul is not that far off. But look at Jaden Darling down here, very close to the back of Paul Mikolajczyk right now. Jaden must have been putting in some work at this track, and he is actually doing very well. He set 3 yellow sectors there for the beginning of his of this lap, but that's no worries because Jaden right now with a 2:06.990 is in 3rd place. He's going to be starting on the 2nd row of that grid.
Yeah, and really impressive for him. I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen Jaden Darling run up front here that much in the Cross Touring Cup. So to see him run like this, it gives me great expectations for him this race. I think he's going to get a really good result out of this one. Maybe even have a shot at the win, but if not that, definitely a podium.
Yeah, absolutely, he will. But, don't look too far because Jake Ham, as of right now, he's not setting some very good laps at the moment. But we do know that this guy can run some very quick laps. He is extremely competitive up here, so I'd be watching out for him as well. Maybe he just hasn't gotten the practice that he normally does, but we'll see what he can what he can cook up for the race. It looks like there will definitely be some slipstreaming opportunities on this track. There are some very, very long straights here. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what these only 4 people in this GT3 class tonight as he comes into the pits. But here in the TCRs, Robert Schwenkler is in first place. Eduardo Pecorini has not set a qualifying lap yet. So I wonder if he's going to be trying to start from the back. And Robert is a pretty quick guy in these cars.
Yeah, and I definitely would expect Robert, if Eduardo Pecorini is not qualifying and he is trying to just work his way through the field here. I'm not exactly sure what reason that would be for, but if he is, definitely maybe a sort of strategy call. You could expect some chaos early, or he just wants to try and work his way through the field for the fun of it. But I wouldn't underestimate Robert Schwenkler if I was him.
Yeah.
Even though Eduardo has dominated some of these races, Robert Schwenkler has always been right there. A little far back, but not too far back to the point where he's completely out of it. So definitely expect something from Robert Schwenkler here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we're watching Jerry DiPiero drive around the track. And speaking of drivers that have gotten quicker throughout the season so far, Jerry just keeps putting some grease on those wheelchair wheels and just getting quicker and quicker every race that he runs here in the Cross Touring Cup. And right now, Jerry has set a few green sectors. We'll see what he can do when he comes up, and you can see he's climbing up and over to the finish line. You can see this big hill here for Road America. Runs at 2:22.364. That is his quickest of the session and gets him within 0.9 of a second of Rob, which is within striking distance. If he can stay close enough, these TCRs are definitely going to have some drafting opportunities.
Absolutely, 100% on that one. And with how close, here, let me rephrase that. With how slow these TCRs, I don't want to put them down at all. They're incredibly quick race cars. But with how slow they are compared to the GT3s and compared to how big this track is, there are definitely going to be drafting opportunities to just keep these cars together. We saw it at Spa 2 weeks ago, where these guys, they would split apart a little bit to the rest of the track, but then down these straightaways, they would just come right back up together. So, and with arguably even longer straightaways on Road America, definitely going to be some drafting opportunities, and I would really expect for Jerry DiPiero to maybe try and make a move on Robert Schwenkler in the early stages of this race when he's close enough to the point where he can make a run for that win.
Yeah, so here's the thing with Jerry, though, that I've done quite a few races with Jerry, and he is an extremely careful, courteous race car driver. So when it comes to trying to make big moves, I wouldn't expect Jerry to do it. Now, if Rob opens the door, or if Jerry can get it done down the straightaway, that would be the chance that Jerry has to maybe start throwing some defensive moves on Rob. But I wouldn't expect Jerry. Hopefully he can, but right now Rob is definitely the class of the field there. You can see he is almost a full second ahead of Jerry, with Chad Seep about 0.9 of a second behind Jerry even. So you can see that these TCRs right now are very, very spread out. James Keir doesn't look like even set a lap time. I think he had a few dirty laps there and wasn't able to get one in. But, at the moment, I think that this battle is definitely going to be... We're going to have to watch Eduardo Pecorini for sure to see where he comes from and if he can get up through this field and try to catch Rob. Because right now, if you're looking at that timing tower on your top left, it doesn't look like anybody's going to... Eduardo may be able to get up into second place in class, but I don't know if he's going to be able to catch him.
Yeah, and that is where that, maybe not a strategy call, just that race positioning call. If Eduardo is choosing to start from the back, it's either because he wants to, or he's maybe predicting a first lap wreck. I would assume that with how fast he is, he's just always trying to think one step ahead of his competition to just keep that speed up and momentum up through these races. So I'm not sure, honestly, what he's thinking here for this one. My best guess is that he's thinking that there may be a lap 1 wreck, but honestly, I'm not sure. But getting up through this field, that's where he's going to have issues. If he loses too much time to Robert Schwenkler trying to pass, for example, Jerry DiPiero, who we know is pretty quick in these TCRs, if he gets hung up on Jerry DiPiero for just 2 laps, it could throw his entire race out of balance, and all of a sudden, he can't catch Robert Schwenkler.
Yep, that is correct. But anyways, here we are. Here we go with the grid. Going to bring it up here. It looks like we've got Kerry Cantera there in first place with Paul Mikolajczyk in second, Jaden Darling third, Jake Ham in fourth, Jimmy Howitt back there in fifth with Tyler Coates in sixth. That rounds out the GT3s. Now for the TCRs, in first place, we've got Robert Schwenkler in second with Jerry DiPiero. Third is Chad Seep. Fourth, James Keir. Fifth, Kevin Irwin. And sixth, rounding out the bottom, is Eduardo Pecorini. But I do not expect to see him down there for long.
Yeah, definitely. As we know, one of the fastest guys in maybe even the fastest for the TCR class. And real quick, while I have the opportunity, I do want to apologize for saying that Eduardo was the points leader. I could not see it on my overlay, and I'm going to be honest, I just took a wild guess at it, and I unfortunately got it wrong. But ignoring that, let's take a look up here towards the front of the GT3 field.
1 second here. I apologize. 1 second. We just got a a YouTube chat by Bill Baker saying Jake's car makes me want to go to the max with Zach Morris and AC Slater. I love it. Yeah, we definitely talk about Jake's car quite a bit. I feel like I should be wearing parachute pants right now, Bill. But yeah, no, Jake's car is definitely something else. But I apologize. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, but just back to this, up towards the front of this GT3 field, Kerry Cantera. He's definitely a very cautious driver, but he can be aggressive when necessary. So honestly, I would expect him to try and take a big extra bite of the cherry here in these first few laps to try and pull a gap on Paul Mikolajczyk. But the TCR is just rolling around, just starting up now as these fields split up for the start of this race. They're going to come up the hill. We see Robert Schwenkler and Jerry DiPiero there leading the TCR field. But as they come up the hill, Paul Mikolajczyk, Kerry Cantera, Jake Ham, Jaden Darling, and we are green. We are racing here from Road America for the Cross Touring Cup, even for the front two, and even third and fourth back there. They're still side by side, but Paul Mikolajczyk with a great start on that left side. He's going to be on the outside into turn one. It all depends on if he can hold it. Kerry Cantera still there, not giving up into turn one. They stay side by side, and it looks like Paul Mikolajczyk is going to take the lead for the GT3 class in turn one after a phenomenal start from him.
Yeah, Paul Mikolajczyk had a great start, and now we've got actually Chad Seep looking to make a move here on James Keir on the inside. Is he going to make it work? No, he's not. James holds that position for now. James appears to be up in, actually, to 10th place. Go ahead and take a look at that right now. We can see the gain. James, no, is holding station. Chad Seep is the one that's already lost 2 positions. And speaking of losing 2 positions, guess who's already gained 3?
Yeah, Eduardo Pecorini, we talked about it pre-race, and he's just gone and done it again. Up 3 spots before they even got to turn 2. So definitely an impressive performance from him early on. Now it all depends on how quickly he can catch Robert Schwenkler, who's definitely trying to pull that gap away from that third place car in the TCR class. If Rob can open up a big enough gap I believe that was Chad Seep back there, very close to spinning out. You saw him get sideways. It looks like he used the power of front-wheel drive to put that throttle down and just save the car using the front-wheel drive system. But up towards the front, Paul Mikolajczyk still leads the GT3 field. Kerry Cantera not giving up behind him, gets a great run down that straightaway with the slipstream into, I believe that's Canada Corner. I could be wrong.
You are correct.
But and as they come up through the last couple of corners, Kerry Cantera still just trying to close that gap. Paul trying to extend it. They're pretty dead even as they come into turn 14. Paul looks like he got his left sides in the grass there, but back towards the GT3 field. Jerry DiPiero has fallen back to 4th. 10th overall. James Keir got around Tim. We might have to try and take a look at that move. But up towards the front of the TCR field, Eduardo Pecorini chasing down Schwenkler as we see the move into Canada corner. James Keir just goes for the move on the inside. Looks like Jerry might have lifted a little bit there. Ooh, tried to get back down to the inside and just couldn't get it done. But towards the front of this TCR field, Eduardo Pecorini is hunting, and he's hunting fast.
Yeah, Rob now sees that yellow Hyundai getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the back in his mirror, and it is very scary. I mean, just look at the lines that Eduardo Pecorini is taking. Every corner he makes is just perfect. I have yet to see a mistake by Eduardo Pecorini in a race that we've covered here on Slow Motion Broadcasting as he's about to go for the move right now. He is not waiting around.
Yeah, definitely. Even early on in just lap 2, Eduardo Pecorini going for the lead. He's going to get his nose out front into 3. Robert Schwenkler not giving up there, still on his left side as they come into, I want to say that's turn 4. Hard on the brakes. You can see the rear brakes glowing, still side by side as they come into turn 6.
Wow.
Oh, a bit of netcode contact there. Eduardo Pecorini just ever so slightly tapped Schwenkler, but that's enough to clear Eduardo Pecorini. Now Schwenkler just needs to hold on as we take another look at that. They're side by side under the Sargento Bridge, and it looks like Eduardo just got his nose out before turn 5.
He did. I mean, this was the longest pass in the history of passes, but we will see again exactly, hopefully, what happened here between these two. So you can see Eduardo there on the outside. I don't even know. I think Rob just swerved. He saw Eduardo come back onto the track, and he did not want to damage his car this early in the race.
And also, it could be a part there that Eduardo went a bit wide there, as we see Paul Mikulajczyk with a 2.3 second gap on Kerry Cantera early. But going back to what happened between Pecorini and Schwenkler, I want to say that that's just Pecorini. He's coming through turn 5, but he knows that he has to get back onto the pavement and not hit the grass, so he just had to come over and hope Robert Schwenkler would go with him. And unfortunately, it just ended up in netcode contact, but Schwenkler doing a good job holding on for what he can. But up towards this GT3 field, Jaden Darling is trying to get around Kerry Cantera, currently a 5-second gap. It increases to 7 as they come out of turn 2. Now, Jaden Darling really needs to put his head down here.
Yeah, so it was a 5/10 gap that has increased to a 7/10 gap. So apologies there for my co-commentator. But yeah, no, I am very impressed with how well Jaden is getting on right now. This is not something that we're used to seeing out of Mr. Darling back there. He is in 3rd place. He's in a podium position right now, and the closest guy to him is 6 seconds back, and that's Jimmy Howitt. So Jaden is doing a very, very nice job at the moment. Speaking of people who we don't expect to be places, I wouldn't expect Jake Ham to be this far back.
Yeah, we've definitely seen Jake Ham do great in all of the XTC races pretty much. He's been a great driver. He's stayed up front. He's put himself in the winning position. And it looks like here's just not the best race early on for him. Kevin Irwin a lap down as well as Paul Mikulajczyk comes around to lapping. You can see him flashing the headlights. And speaking of bad races, Kevin Irwin already a lap down, and I saw him in the pits at one point. I'm not sure if maybe he got some damage and just decided to pull it in, or if maybe he's going for some strategy there as we take a look. He's coming into Canada corner, and just outbrakes himself, and
wow,
straight into the tire barriers off the curb. A little bump there and goes up and over. Just had to tow that Honda back to the pit lane. Very unfortunate for him, but that's honestly one of the weirdest crashes I've ever seen, Adam.
Yeah, it does. It can get these. So these front-wheel drive cars don't react sometimes like you think they would, especially under braking. They tend to get very, very tail happy for no reason at all. So I think that may have just been what happened with Kevin. As he tried to catch it, he just goes into the gravel. You can't stop, you can't turn at that point, and he just sends it straight into that tire barrier. But he's back out on track. He hasn't given up yet. So that's good. Good on Kevin. for doing that, and we can see these gaps here are really starting to fan out now. I don't think there's a single car here within 1 second of each other. So, gonna just talk a little more about Jaden Darling for what it's worth. Jaden hasn't. We don't really ever cover Jaden because we never see him up here in a podium position. But right now, to see Jaden Darling up here in a podium position, granted, Josh Clogg and Bobby Ross are not racing, but he's beating Jake Ham, who is not a slow driver at all, and he was, for a moment, keeping tabs with Kerry Cantera. So I'm just super impressed by the way Jaden's driving this BMW around this track right now.
Yeah, and we haven't seen him run up front this much. Every time that we've looked for him in the field, from times that I've looked back there, he's always just ended up in an unfortunate situation where he's just wrecked himself out of the race, whether it's his fault or someone else's. And it's just honestly amazing. I really liked it. He's just able to come here into Road America and just already get himself early into the podium places. I'm really happy, even if he can just get a podium, whether he can win or not.
Yeah, this is absolutely the definition of practice right here. I'm pretty sure if we are able to get an interview from Jaden here at the end of the race, I have a feeling he will mention that practice has definitely played a role in this, because he is just outclassing 3 of his GT3 counterparts out here, and it is actually really impressive. Jimmy Hallett back here, 10 seconds behind. So these top 3 are with, what is he doing?
It looks like might have gotten a bit of oversteer on exit there. Swerves it into the grass. Does a nice job of keeping it under control. Brings it back onto the track nicely. A well done save from him. But that's going to give Jake Ham a shot as they come down into turn 1. Jake Ham's going to get under a second under braking. He's going to keep it through the corners as Jimmy Howett. James Howett, I do believe, or do I have that wrong?
Jimmy Howett. Yep, you're right. It's Jimmy
Howett, Jimmy Howett, dipped his right side tires there into the gravel on the apron of turn 1, and that gives Jake Ham a real opportunity here. He hasn't had the best race so far, and honestly, if he can hold position, he will not have lost any spots if he can get around Jimmy. So honestly, if I can just get myself up and back to 4th, if I'm Jake, I'm going to be happy with this race. And that's exactly what he's going to try and do as they come into turn 6. Jimmy gets his tires onto the grass again, and Jake Ham has completed the pass. He's up into 4th place.
Yeah, really, the series of events that have gone down here with Jimmy over the last half a lap makes me think he may be struggling from some type of software issue, because he has definitely dipped those tires of that Porsche into the grass where you wouldn't expect somebody to run it off into the grass. But that's neither here nor there. Jake Ham has gotten around Jimmy, and now he's got about 30 minutes to get up and pass Jaden Darling. But that is a big ask at this point, because Jaden is 12 seconds ahead.
Back up towards the front of this GT3 field, I want to take a second to look at the interval between 1st and 2nd here. The last time I looked up there, it was around a 2.5 second gap for Paul Mikolajczyk between Kerry Cantera. Now that I look up there, looks like that gap has been knocked down by a second, down to 1.5 for Kerry Cantera. So Kerry just probably set a really quick lap time, and he did makes up 5/10 that lap at 2:06.417, and that will take fastest lap overall. So if I'm Paul Mikolajczyk at this point, I'm starting to get worried, because that Lamborghini back there driven by Kerry Cantera is coming, and he's coming fast.
Yeah, he is. You got to wonder if maybe he's just held back just a little bit, unless Paul is actually slowing down to race, because him and Kerry are actually friends. So maybe Paul's just trying to get a little bit of racing action in, but he is losing an absolute load of time. This battle is now all of a sudden down into 0.8 of a second. I don't really know what's going on here with Paul. Hopefully he's doing okay, but yeah, the battle all of a sudden is on for this first position.
I honestly think you're right about that with Paul Mikolajczyk and Kerry Cantero. We know they're close friends, so I wouldn't be shocked if they're just trying to make this a pretty exciting race for the lead here. Good on Paul if he's doing that, but good on Kerry if Kerry's just making up rapid amounts of time as they come into the carousel. Only 5/10 back. So we take a look at Tyler Coates. Ooh, gets a bit off track there. Eduardo Pecorini comes around him. Looks like he just brings it safely back onto the track. Looks like he's just keeping it onto the grass to keep that car out of the way. And he actually has a bit of right side damage there on the hood of that Mercedes. Let's see if we can get a replay on that one. Yeah, here it is. He's coming. Looks like he's just onto the grass for no reason. Just swerves back straight into the wall. Completely unforced error there for him. Can't think he had already been in the grass. I just can't think of why. You see, there's smoke back there. He had already been off track. Let's see if we can rewind a little bit further because he has less side damage at that point. You can see where the hood is bent up. He's coming into Canada corner here. Oh, and that just looks like exactly what Kevin Irwin did. Just outbrakes himself going into Canada corner and straight into the wall. But actually, back for the lead. So we see Kerry Cantero. Ooh, it looks like Paul got off track there in Canada corner. And that's where Kerry Cantero takes the lead right back from him.
Yeah, we missed that, trying to find exactly what Tyler Coates was doing back there in the back of the field. Very weird, and now he's in the pits. Both of these drivers, Tyler Coates and Jimmy Howard, are definitely doing. That was bit of some weird things going on here tonight here in XTC. But anyways, for the lead, we got Paul Mikolajczyk and Kerry Cantero. Paul maybe slowed down for Kerry, or maybe Kerry has just absolutely turned on the burners because his fastest lap is 1/10 quicker than Paul Mikolajczyk back there in second place. So we'll see what Paul is doing now to see if he can get back up to Kerry, but it doesn't look like it. This gap is really it's starting to fall away from Paul all of a sudden.
Yeah, Paul just needs to put his nose to the grindstone here, put that pedal to the floor, and just try as hard as he can to catch up to this Lamborghini. It's an unfortunate mistake, outbraking himself into Canada corner and going off track, which gave Kerry Cantero the lead. So Paul just needs to try and put that Ferrari in a good position to make up some solid amounts of time here to try and get back up to that Lamborghini. But with how fast that 333 car is, I don't know if he's going to be able to do it.
I really don't think so either. I mean, so this gap is starting to come back down. We're within a second, kind of hovering around that 1 second range, which is where that slipstream is going to come into play, especially down this straightaway. So if Paul can find a way to claw that back and get within 1 second of Kerry, he should be good. I don't know exactly how Paul lost all of that time, and he's just lost 0.5 of a second in one corner. So I don't know how Paul is losing all of this time, as he was just so much quicker at the beginning of the race. I almost think it has to be tire wear, but around Road America, you wouldn't expect it to be this intense.
Yeah, and it could have been just the Kerry Cantero. He caught up to Paul Mikolajczyk, he made the move, and now Kerry's just thinking, well, I've got to turn the jets on to try and maintain this lead. But Paul, he's lost a little bit of time over there through that last sector, but he's still making it up now through turn 2 and down this long straightaway under the Sargento Bridge. He's gotten that gap under a second, and like you said, this is where the draft is going to start coming into play. There's 3 long straightaways here where the draft can really take effect. So Paul Mikolajczyk really late on the brakes, it looked like, into turn 5. Up under the Corvette Bridge and into turn 6. Paulie's doing a great job so far this lap. As we take a look at the cockpit view of Kerry Cantero, he's just trying to keep that car consistent. Now as we look at Paul Mikolajczyk trying to chase down that Lamborghini in front of him, looks like he might have lost a bit of time there, but breaking into that 90-degree left-hander. Ooh, looks like they're going to stay dead even. He makes up a bit of time as they come into the carousel. Looks like he's going to just keep it in third gear, let off a little bit mid-corner, get right back on the gas on exit, up into fourth, and down through the kink, then down this long straightaway. He's gotten that gap to just over a second. Who gets a bit loose there, saves it, does a great job there. Now he's gotten that gap under a second. This is where he's going to get the draft into Canada corners. There's smoke in front of him, and that looks like a car off track. Ooh, it's Kevin Irwin. Kevin Irwin. Ooh, Kerry Cantera had to pull a great move there to try and keep that car away from hitting that Honda. So that might have caused Kerry Cantera a little bit of time, but it looks like it cost Paul more just trying to swerve out of the way. And Paulie's coming into the pits now.
Oh, this is going to get a little bit spicy here. We'll see exactly what Paul can do. He's obviously lost that position to Kerry, but we'll see what he can do when he comes out of the pits. Actually, I'm intrigued right now. We're going to stay on Paul, even though, I mean, really we should, because I want to see if we see this car lift up at all, because that means he's taking tires. And if he does, he's going to lose quite a bit of time. But how much time Paul lost to Kerry in a span of 2 laps was very impressive. So we'll have to see here if Paul, we're watching him right now, is he going to take any tires? Doesn't look like he's going to. Jaden Darling in the pits as well, right behind him. So Paul's going to come out. Kerry has to put in a very, very good lap here, because these tires have gotten a little colder for Paul, but they're going to be cold for Kerry when he comes in as well. So it's going to be super, super important for Kerry to put in a very, very good in lap if this is his in lap. But that seems early, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it might just be that Paul Mikolajczyk, he's known that he has lost the lead. He was losing a bit of time there, so he tried to go for an undercut, try and get a good out lap, maybe on fresher tires if he took tires. I am honestly not sure.
It doesn't look like he did.
Yeah, so Paul Mikolajczyk, he takes no tires there, so just trying to take advantage of the tires being a little bit cooler on his out lap, and just trying to make up time on Kerry Cantera.
Got Jerry DiPiero staying well out of the way there. Yep. So
yeah, Jerry.
Sorry, Alex. We're talking over each other. We've got a YouTube chat here, or a YouTube comment from Hannibal Moore. Hey, Hannibal, see you in here quite a bit, man. So glad you're following along again tonight. He says, "Yo, there is a lot of Muppet stuff going on. Elmo's 488s and stuff." Yeah. So we're looking here on board with Kerry Cantera, and you can see Kerry's profile picture, which we've had a laugh at for quite a bit, as we can see Kerry coming into the pits. This is going to be a very big deal now for Kerry to see. We're going to get back on board here with Paul, because this is a battle for first place, and now we do see the Elmo car of Paul in that Ferrari. So yeah, there is definitely some Sesame Street themed characters tonight, and they have been all season. So this is pretty fun league to cover, just because of the paint jobs in general.
Yeah, and it's just honestly fun in general to watch these guys racing as Paul flickers on the headlights to motion to Kevin Irwin that, hey, I'm coming by and I'm trying to make this pass for the lead, get out of the way. So it's just all going to depend on the run he can get. Oh, Kevin Irwin into the grass. Paul Mikolajczyk is going to have to take some evasive maneuvers to miss him. That might hurt him here. When Kerry Cantera comes out of pit lane, Kerry Cantera is still in his stall. He pulls out now. I think Paul Mikolajczyk, there he is. He's got a lot of speed.
Is he going to get it?
I think he might be able to take the lead. He's going to get it into turn number 1, and Paul Mikolajczyk has taken the lead of this race right back.
Now you have to wonder. So we still see Paul flashing his light, so he may actually have a keybind set for maybe his upshift or his downshift or something. So maybe why Paul's flashing his lights, even when there's nobody around, because there he goes again. So, yeah, he may have something set. He maybe have like a quick chat set or something that's when he's talking to somebody in the Discord, a push to talk, he's flashing his lights as well. But that's neither here nor there, because we now finally have a battle on track, and we can stay with this as we can see that red Elmo Ferrari of Paul Mikolajczyk up there in first place, trying to hold on to this first position. He got it in the pit stop, and they pitted at 18 minutes. So guess what that's telling me? They're going to have to come in again.
Yeah, and if they have to come in again, it's definitely going to be quite a long race here for them. If I'm both of these drivers right now, if I'm Kerry Cantera and I know I'm faster, I'm just going to be content to ride around on the bumper of that Elmo Ferrari just to try and pit the same lap that the L1 car does and just try and keep speed with him on exit of the pits, so that way we can just race in the final few minutes of this race and keep our cars out of trouble. But the question about that strategy is, can Kerry Cantera catch up and even maybe try and make a move on Paul Mikolajczyk? We've seen how fast he is, but he actually loses a bit of time there, and this is where Kerry Cantera needs to focus and get into a bit of a zone for himself here.
Yeah, so we'll see what exactly goes on here. We just had a bit of a incident, maybe. So we've got Jake Ham and Tyler Coates. Tyler tries to go around the outside. Ooh, my goodness gracious. What a save to not get anybody else in trouble while he was spinning everywhere on the track.
Yeah, and even with the damage he got on that Mercedes, he did a good job of minimalizing it there to just barely scrape the outside barrier. And again, just a fantastic job from him to miss those guys, as he was completely out of control, and he still keeps it out of harm's way for Jake Ham. And I do believe that was Kevin Irwin. It might have been Chad Seep.
That was Chad Seep.
But it was Chad Seep. I do apologize. But back up towards the front, Kerry Cantera closing that gap now. It's down to 4/10. It looks like it increases to almost 6/10 under braking there, and it does through turn 5. Kerry Cantera gets that exit speed up and under the Corvette bridge. They coming into turn 6. Dead even through that corner. Kerry Cantera makes up some time on exit, and down out of the carousel and into the kink and down that straightaway. I think that's where Kerry Cantera can make a move.
I think you might be right, but I do believe that Paul may be just a little bit quicker through the carousel. Now, on the exit of the carousel, that's anybody's guess, because this is basically a flat-out corner. But when I say that, yeah, so Paul, you can see almost visibly gaining just a little bit of time there on Kerry coming up. And they do have James Keir right in front of them, so this could put Paul in a very vulnerable position. It is going to, as they get into this. You can see they're going to get into Canada corner. Oh my goodness, Paul's able to get around him. Now, is Kerry going to be able to get around him? It's going to compromise Kerry's corner there. So Kerry may actually lose a little bit more time to Paul. He does. That's about back to his second now. All of a sudden, Paul has started to turn on the afterburners again. I don't know what happened there with Paul there at the beginning of the race. But he's definitely starting to get a little quicker, but Kerry just gains all that time right back. And we do have an incident here. Kevin Irwin has found himself probably in the same spot, maybe. Is this Canada corner again? No, this is not Canada corner, and it looks like Kevin Irwin already has damage from something else. And then we've got Jerry DiPiero as well. See exactly what happened to him. This looks like he's coming onto the final corner, just gets it. He cannot hold on to it, and he loses a position. And guess what? Look who now all of a sudden is in third position there for the TCRs.
Yeah, James Keir. He hasn't had the best of seasons so far for the Cross Touring Cup, and just like Jaden Darling's story, it's just great to see him come out here and just put himself up in the podium positions. But up towards the front with these two leaders for the GT3 class, if you said Paul Mikolajczyk turned on the afterburners, I think Kerry Cantera shifted up into ludicrous speed. Through that last corner there, that lap, Kerry Cantera brought that gap from 9/10 down to 5/10 just through one corner alone. So Kerry Cantera, he has the pace, he has the speed, he just needs to keep that Lamborghini clean through the carousel. And we've seen Paul Mikolajczyk make up a bit of time there. He does it again around 200s, maybe even almost a tenth there.
Wow.
And that's a lot of time lost on Kerry's part. I can't help but think that Kerry might have gotten loose there and just slid the back end of that Lamborghini around on the exit of the carousel. He does a nice job keeping it under control. Now he just has to minimalize the damage done from that, because if he keeps that mistake in his head, it's only going to lead him into more.
Wow, as Paul got loose.
Yeah, Paul gets loose there, and Kerry Cantera is able to make that time back up again through the last corner, turn 14. I would honestly say that this is Kerry's best corner, is he's just really able to hook that car up on the apron, and he gets the grass there actually that time. And through this front straightaway, then through 1 and 2, and down that second straightaway there, I think this is where Kerry Cantera may have a shot if he can get through these first 2 corners nice and clean.
Yeah, this is also, you can see that 235 dangerous car of Robert Schwinkler there looming in the distance. That is not what Paul wants to see right now. Hopefully Paul catches him in a position where it does not hurt. Who is there? Someone may be off track. Looks like Jimmy Howard sitting off the track. But so here, this is going to get interesting very quickly because Paul is going to get a bit of a slipstream from Robert and then move to the right. Robert lets them both go. And now Kerry's going to get a slipstream from Paul. And is Kerry going to go for this move? He gets outside, but is Paul? No! He dummies Paul and he drives it down the inside. And he is going to make the move there on Paul Mikolajczyk. And that was going through turn 5.
Yeah, and Paul, he even swung that car a bit wide on exit there, gets into the gravel trap. And that was a really impressive move from Kerry Cantera there, in my opinion. Very late on the brakes into turn 5 compared to what I've seen from these guys. So just a very impressive move from him to take the lead of this race back. Now, if you're in Paul's position here and you have to pit again, this is where that pit strategy is going to come into play again. Remember back when they first pitted? Paul Mikolajczyk had around a 2-second gap to Kerry Cantera when they first came into the pits. So if Paul can pull off another undercut and get back out in front of Kerry Cantera, it might lead Paul Mikolajczyk to winning this race off of pit strategy.
I think it might because Paul is kind of married to his pit strategy at this point, and Paul goes wide.
It looks like he just outbraked himself into Canada corner, hits the gravel trap. This is exactly what he did not need. That's going to allow Kerry Cantera to pull up a 6.2 second gap as he comes down that front straightaway. It moves up to 6. Oh, excuse me, it went down there through that last corner. Is Paul just trying to push that car? He's going to come into the pits. I can't help but think that this is either a strategy call or he might have hit something there, but brings it into the pits. So this is where he's going to have to make that pit strategy useful once again. He needs to have the best outlap possible to try and make up as much time on Kerry Cantera when Kerry comes in for his stop.
He definitely does. I apologize here. Getting back here to the YouTube chat. Hannibal Moore said if that was real life, bro, that in that Merc, he would have pooped himself. Yeah, he definitely would have. Tyler Coates in that Mercedes almost cutting across 2 other drivers. That could have been way worse, but again, great save there by Tyler, and I'm giggling a little bit at the YouTube chat here. So Hannibal, thanks for keeping us company, but yeah, we are back here into the race. Watching at Paul, it doesn't look like Paul takes tires again. He just fills it up with gas and he comes out. So the question being, he was not 2 seconds when he entered the pits, Alex. He was 6.
Yeah, and that is definitely going to make this a bit more difficult for Paul. And if Paul can't make up that gap, Kerry Cantera is going to have won himself this race, I think. But then again, it all depends. Will Kerry Cantera come in this lap? We saw it when they first pitted. When Paul Mikolajczyk did it first, Kerry Cantera came in the lap after. But after the mistakes made by Paul through Canada corner there, when he came into the pits, I think that this might be where Kerry Cantera can put his head down and say, I've got a gap here. I'm going to continue to run on this for a little bit. And if he does that, it's all going to be about how fast Paul Mikolajczyk can go on those cooler tires after sitting in the pits. But Kerry Cantera is going to have less fuel if he stays out. It's all going to depend on if Kerry Cantera comes into the pits this time. So through the last corner he comes. Turn 14 just gets a nice run on the apron, and unlike what they did the first time, Kerry Cantera stays out.
Yeah, so we'll have to see exactly what Kerry Cantera can do on these laps when Paul has already come into the pits. You wonder, and this you may know this a little better than me, Alex, what does fuel load do to these cars? Do you think with Kerry running on this lighter fuel load than Paul has now, you really think it makes that much of a difference? Because if it does, I mean, Kerry is just going to keep pulling some gaps there on Paul. But you can see Paul back there, 15 seconds behind Jake Ham. And, man, I can't even do that amount of math. He is way back behind Jaden Darling even.
Yeah, and just thinking about the fuel for a second, we're going to take a break to talk about the fuel here for a second. Kerry Cantera pitted around minute 18 of this race, so he's running on around 12 minutes of a fuel run here, and he's going to definitely have less fuel in the tank than Paul has, and with that, less fuel means a lighter car. But if you have studied racing and you know kind of just the basic rules of fuel in motorsports, you know that less fuel is going to make that car looser. More fuel, because a heavier rear end, is going to make that car tighter. So, with more fuel in the '01 Ferrari, I would say that that's going to really secure the rear end of Paul Mikolajicic's car there, and it's going to help him through some of the corners that he's been struggling with oversteer on. But up here with Kerry Cantera, he's going to have that advantage down the straightaways. But if he isn't careful, snap oversteer from a lighter rear end could end his night.
Yeah, it definitely could. So Kerry's got to be careful. And that Lambo, of all the cars, I think here in iRacing, the GT3 cars, I really do think that Lambo maybe the best one to keep snap oversteer away. It's actually a little bit understeery. From what I remember it being, for all the GT3 cars, that Porsche is almost the most miserable car, I think, ever to drive there in iRacing in the GT3s. I do enjoy the Ferrari, but it is also a bit tail happy, as we saw Paul having a few issues with it, but Kerry's just, this car looks planted for him right now.
Yeah, and that car definitely really secure on the exit of these corners, like you said, with the Lambo being usually pretty easy to keep under control, even with the understeer a little bit. But personally, I would honestly choose the Mercedes. I know we only have one Mercedes GT3 in this field, driven by Tyler Coates, but honestly, I do believe it's the only front-engine GT3 car in this field. Actually, excuse me, the BMW is also front-engine, and with that, a front-engine car compared to a rear-engine car like the Ferrari or the Lambo, with a front-engine car, that front end is going to be a bit more heavy, but if you can pack in power in a larger engine bay, you're going to be able to get more power to those rear wheels to push yourself through these corners. So honestly, I personally prefer the Mercedes, and I would say that Kerry Cantera and Paul Mikulajic could push themselves to new heights if they used it, because in my opinion, it's got that front end security, but it's got that power to make it through these corners fast. But with those rear engine cars, you haven't got the most engine room back there, but you can definitely really secure that car more through these corners. And as we take a look at a replay here, looks like Jimmy Howard coming out of the pits in his Porsche, right behind Tyler Coates in the Mercedes. Looks like he's get those right sides into the grass a little bit, and he brings it to a complete stop there on exit.
You know, I know what that's for. I do believe, I don't know who was passing him, but I think he did not want to mess up whoever was coming into turn one at the time, because I saw somebody go blowing past him there into turn one, and I think it was this guy right here of Jaden Darling. And can we just stop for a second and talk about Jaden Darling? Look at what he is doing in this BMW. We haven't mentioned his name maybe 3 times all season, Alex, and all of a sudden this guy has turned it on.
And he's doing a fantastic job already today in second here at Road America, but I want to put some attention towards his strategy. I'm not going to lie, I don't really remember when this number 81 BMW pitted for fuel, but if he has been cautious with his tires, and he's been saving that car nice and well, maybe lifting before corners, pushing the clutch in under braking, he's been saving some fuel there. And personally, if he's been saving fuel there, I think it might be a strategy for him to try and pull a one-shot or a one-pit stop race here. Because if Kerry Cantera comes to the pits, that's going to hand Jaden Darling the lead, and then all that 81 car has to do from there is just hold on for the final few minutes.
Yeah, it definitely does. I just don't know exactly how long, because most of these drivers came in around the same time. So I don't know exactly how long these guys are able to go on fuel, and that is on me for not doing my research beforehand. Now, if Jaden has changed his fuel map in that BMW, and he has been coasting and lifting and coasting. If you look right now, if I'm Jaden Darling, I have almost 9 minutes left in this race. You can bet with a 25-second gap behind me, I am going to be lifting and coasting every corner to make sure I make it to the end, or I'm going in for, when I say a splash, Alex, I mean just a splash of gas. Give me just one more lap and lift and coast.
Yeah, and with that, pulling in for just maybe a gallon, 2 gallons of fuel, as I believe the car in 10th place there, Kevin Irwin, might have gone off track there in the last corner. I could be wrong. But if Jaden Darling comes in for just that splash of fuel here, as we see Kevin Irwin, yes, he does understeer a little bit, goes off track in turn 14, keeps it on the track nicely, keeps it out of the way of the other cars. But if Jaden Darling just comes in for a splash of fuel here, and actually, yeah, that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to try and just make it to the end of the race on this one stop. But if he's been doing his math, he's not going to have to take as much fuel as, per se, Paul Mikolajczyk did there.
So this is big. This is big right here. You can see on the track map, Paul Mikolajczyk highlighted with the green around him. Jaden Darling still in the pits. He may actually be rolling out unless he's still rolling into the pits. Is he still rolling in? He is. So Paul Mikolajczyk is going to get this position back. But Paul is come in very early, both pit stops so far. So I'm almost wondering if Paul can make it, because if he can't, guess who takes second position? It's going to be Jaden Darling.
Yeah, and that's just got to be so frustrating for Jaden Darling there. Just a very long front stretch pit road for Road America, and it's just got to be so frustrating just watching your opponent fly by you on the racetrack. But Jaden Darling still comes out in the podium places with Jake Ham 3 seconds behind him. Now, we have to watch that Lamborghini leading this race. So we take a look at Jake Ham.
Oh, no!
Actually, no, Jaden Darling, he's off track there. And if he wants to try and get that podium now, he's going to have to hope that Jake Ham hasn't pitted yet. But for the lead of this race, Kerry Cantera, we're just going to have to watch him and see when he comes down pit road. And if it's this lap or in the coming laps, Paul Mikolajczyk just has to set the fastest time he can. He's going to have his spotter tell him, yep, Kerry Cantera pulls into the pits. That spotter letting Paul Mikolajczyk know that Kerry Cantera is in this time. So Paul Mikolajczyk, he's going to have to set the best final sector he ever has here.
Here's the problem.
Trying to use that draft of Tyler Coates there.
He is using the draft, but here's the problem. Tyler could be holding him up right now. Tyler does not seem to be wanting to give this position to Paul. Tyler is holding right down the middle of the track, and he's still racing Paul. He is not letting Paul go. This is killing Paul Mikolajczyk's chances of catching Kerry Cantera, as Kerry probably will be coming out of the pits here very, very shortly, and they are still racing each other, Paul Mikolajczyk and Tyler Coates, through the final corner. Man, look at this. Tyler just finally, Paul is able to get around Tyler, but they're still racing each other down the straightaway, and Kerry's already out of the pits.
Yeah, and that's just unfortunate for Paul. You know, normally when the blue flag comes out, it's just courteous to let the faster car by. But Tyler Coates maybe just trying to keep that car just on the lead lap. Maybe when it comes to the GT3 class, maybe he didn't know that Kerry Cantera was the leader and not Paul. But just really hurts Paul Mikolajczyk's chances here at the win, as Paul Mikolajczyk is now 12 seconds back. But back here in third, we were talking about this driver not having the best race early, but now with Jaden Darling's mistake there coming into turn 2, Jake Ham is now up into P3.
He is. Now we're going to have to see if Jake has to come into the pits again. This is going to be a very... I think Jake's going to be cutting it extremely close on fuel. And you can see, if we're going to start watching this gap between Jake and Jaden, and we'll see if this gap starts coming down, because we will know immediately if Jake is trying to save fuel or not, if he's lifting and coasting into the corners. You can see Jaden back there. He is still within striking distance. I mean, Jake makes a mistake, and it's anybody's race.
Yeah, and like Jaden Darling's mistake in turn 2 there, if Jake Ham just tries to pull a complete replica, that could make these two race each other for that podium spot, which in my opinion for these two drivers would be a very tight race. As we take a look at the pit stop strategy here, Jake Ham has made his second stop, so unless he makes a mistake, I think this one is going to go to Jake Ham, and Jaden Darling might just miss out on the podium places, just barely back there in 4th place overall.
Yeah, that is extremely unfortunate. We are now looking at the pit stop strategy. Did not know Jake had already stopped, so this is really just going to have to be a race for Jaden. He's going to have to find a way to claw that time back, or have Jake make a mistake. But at the moment, we know Jake Ham, and I really don't see any mistakes coming out of this guy, which is extremely unfortunate for Jaden, who had run a great race for most of the race. And it's crazy how one mistake, Alex, can change the course of a race. It literally, his first podium of XTC just kind of fell away from him.
Yeah, and it's just, you just gotta hate that for a guy like Jaden, you know? We've barely mentioned him on broadcasts, and every time we have, it's usually been with some sort of mistake. He's never usually been running up front, and the one race where he finally has, it's just so unfortunate to see how one mistake can just put him barely out of reach. Is actually, looks like Tyler Coates was off track there according to the track map, but up towards the front, Kerry Cantera has put together a flawless race so far, and now he just needs to bring it back home. So we take a look at Tyler Coates. He comes through turn 2 and it's like just outbrakes himself again, swings that Mercedes wide, keeps it out of the way of Jake Ham, and it looks like Jaden Darling is going to be able, it looks like Tyler Coates just brings it off track, so that way Jaden Darling can get through there. But up towards the front with Kerry Cantera leading this race, he's going to have just one more lap, and then he'll have won himself this race. But Tyler Coates, again, down into Canada corner on the brakes, or excuse me, not Canada corner, turn 5 onto the brakes, just outbrakes himself there, brings it back onto the curbs and keeps it under control. But up towards the front, Kerry Cantera, just a flawless race for him as he comes around the last couple of corners to take the white flag.
Yep, this is going to be a very, I'm going to be impressed, or I'm going to be intrigued, let's say, to see exactly how or what has gone on in Kerry Cantera's head during this race. And you know what we haven't covered, and we should have, this whole race, is this one right here. I did not realize this was this close. As we see the white flag flying, somehow Chad Seep has found a way around James Keir, but James Keir is within striking distance, and you can see that red Elmo Ferrari coming in behind him, and this is going to get interesting. James may have a chance to catch and pass Kerry, but he's got to do it, and he's got to do it within the next 8 corners.
Yeah, and if he can't do that, still a great showing from James Keir here at Road America. He's got that gap down to 1.1 seconds. He's not able to get the slipstream down this long straightaway. But honestly, if you think about it, if James Keir and Paul Mikolajczyk have a good relationship, Paul realizes, hey, I don't have room. I have enough room behind me to where I don't have to worry about it. I might push Keir down the straightaway here, but looks like Keir swings it wide a bit there. Maybe just outbrakes himself, and Paul not going to try and help out Keir. Goes right by him into turn 6. And James Keir already dropped down 7/10 this lap. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it.
I don't think so. I think that's going to be, go ahead and put the nail in the coffin there for James Keir. But it's not really a coffin. He has done a great job. They're 4th in class, 8th overall. So up 2 positions from the start. You really can't say many bad things about James Keir. But here we are back on board with the Kerry Cantera, who has an absolute country mile between him and second place of Paul Mikolajczyk right now. So really nothing going on for Kerry Cantera. He can probably drive off track for the next 5 corners and still take the win for the XTC race number 6, I believe, of this season, as he is about to round the final corner. Kerry Cantera coming up the hill, across the line, going to take P1 in the GT3s, P1 overall. Congratulations to Kerry Cantera there in the GT3 class. And you know who we haven't talked about at all, and there's a reason we haven't, because there's no need to. Eduardo Pecorini there in the TCR class is about to just drive away again, like he has every race he's entered for the TCRs.
Yeah, and Eduardo Pecorini I wouldn't be shocked if he's just one of the world record holders for these TCR class, or for these TCR cars. He's just so consistent and so quick. You won't see a mistake from him at all. If it's from his own doing, he will not make a mistake. He's just so consistent out there up front. Clean air to the front of that yellow Honda. He's going to round the carousel to a nice, easy-going straightaway to pick up yet another win. Just a flawless race from him, like they've all been. You won't see mistakes from Eduardo Pecorini. As we take a look, James Keir ends up just behind Chad Seep and Robert Schwenkler. He's going to come through the carousel just 25 seconds behind Eduardo Pecorini. Still a good job keeping up with him for the most part. But Eduardo, another flawless race for him. He's about to do it again. He just needs to round 2 more corners. We see Robert Schwenkler coming through the kink on the back straightaway, but up towards the front. Eduardo Pecorini, it's another flawless race from him. He rounds the last corner and just cruising for a bruising up front for him, up the hill and across the line. Eduardo Pecorini is going to win again for the TCR class in XTC at Road America. Robert Schwenkler, a great drive from him after starting on pole, I believe that was. It might have been second for his class. But again, a great showing from him. Second, once again, does a pretty good job keeping up with Pecorini. But across the line, the last car to cross it, Robert Schwenkler ends up in P2 in that Hyundai.
Yeah, look at Rob. You can tell he's celebrating. He's excited. It's just a shame. I mean, he is getting quicker and quicker, and I'm hoping by the end of this season, even though we only have 2 races, 1 race left, and then they've got like a little... sounds like they're going to do an endurance race at the end of the season, which slow motion broadcasting may cover, so we'll have to take a look at that. But yeah, he's got really 1 race to go, and I believe these points are going to be very, very close between him and Eduardo Pecorini towards the end of the season. So once these points get updated, we will get them to you guys next race and see exactly what has to happen for Robert Schwenkler to take the championship win in the TCR class. But with that being said, we do have a YouTube chat here by Hannibal Moore. Said, Jay Darling probably happy as hell, got top 5. Yeah, I do want to give Jaden Darling a shout out before we start getting into the interviews. Absolutely unbelievable drive by Jaden Darling there in 4th position. You can see him in the GT3 class. Almost took the top 3, and he did not let Jake Ham go. Even when he made that mistake, he was still right on his butt for the last two laps even. So Jaden has definitely improved his game. Definitely knew what he was doing around Road America, just wasn't able to get it done. But Alex, I'll go ahead and let you take the results away.
All right, well, winning with a great performance from himself after a great battle with Paul Mikolajczyk. It's going to carry Cantera for that 333 Lamborghini team. And 14 seconds back in P2, it's Paul Mikolajczyk. After a couple of unfortunate mistakes put him out of contention. But down into P3, Jake Ham salvages a podium after what was a pretty bad race for him compared to his recent ones. Jaden Darling, a great showing from him tonight, was running in the podium places. Just fantastic effort from him overall. Ends up P4 overall, P4 in class. Eduardo Pecorini, no big surprise here, wins the TCR class again, 5th place overall. Robert Schwenkler ends up P2, P6 overall. Chad Seep, P3 in class, 7th overall. James Keir, 4th in class, 8th overall. Tyler Coates, couple of unfortunate mistakes for him, took him out of contention, but he still ends up 5th overall and 9th overall and 5th in class. Kevin Irwin rounds out the top 10 in P10, P5 overall. Jerry DiPiero, unfortunate, just like Tyler Coates, unfortunate mistakes for him, put him 11th place overall and 6th in class. And Jimmy Howitt rounds out the field again after just a series of unfortunate mistakes. I believe that one was out of pit road for him, and ends up P12.
Yeah, that is extremely unfortunate for for all of the guys that were in incidents tonight. But with that being said, one guy who was not in an incident tonight would be Kerry Cantera, and we will go ahead and drag him down. And Alex, I'll give you the pleasure of talking to our first place tonight.
Well,
hey guys,
Kerry
how you doing?
Cantera, another fantastic drive from you here today. And after a great battle with Paul Mikolajczyk, and you have ended up in first place at the end of the night.
Yeah, it was a fun race. I love this track. It's a great racing track, much like Sebring. It's just good places to overtake, long straights, good innards of the course. It's just fun all around.
Yeah, and it seemed like you were enjoying your time out there. You end up P1 overall, and going back to those battles you had with Paul Mikolajczyk, you did a great job for yourself there, but what was it like racing with him for the lead here at Road America?
Well, as I said, there's good places for overtake here. Paul had great straight line speed. The Lambo tends to lose on long straights like that, but it's good on the innards of the course. So I was just buying my time. I was just looking for the right spot, and then when it came into the second pit stop, and I had to make a move at some point because I needed to be in front just to get that pit strategy down, and I had to dive in on that corner and got in there, and from there, it was smooth sailing from there. So it's unfortunate that Paul locked up because he was riding well. It was tough to get around him. It took me like almost the first stint just to find a spot or even get close to him. So it was a fun time.
And with that, you were still able to overcome it. Anyone you want to thank, give a shout out to for being able to end up here?
No, not at all. I just want to say thanks for everybody for watching and everybody racing. It's been a good time.
All right, that's all I got for you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem, Kerry. I do want to say one thing to you tonight. Hannibal Moore,
sure.
Here in our YouTube chat, has been following us here for most of the season, and he, I think, put 2 and 2 together because you and Paul were so close to each other. And he goes, there's a lot of Muppet stuff going on. You got Elmo's, you've got you there with your profile picture, man. So yeah,
I love the connection. Good job on that. That's awesome. Right?
All right. Anyways, Kerry, thank you so much for your time, man, and we hope to talk to you next week.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you.
That was Kerry Cantera there, first overall and first in class, and now I will go ahead and drag down Eduardo Pecorini for the first place in the TCRs. Eduardo, you didn't even qualify, and you still took first place, man. You got to start telling us your secrets.
Thank you, man. No, this track is it's a track that I already did in the official iRacing Championship, so I had it all mastered up and everything with the Hyundai. So it was easy for me to get on the times and everything. I tried to qualify, but I don't know. There's a thing I do in real life where I keep holding the brakes on the straights. So I warm up the brakes for the first quali lap, and apparently iRacing doesn't like it anymore, and they disqualified me from the quali, man.
Yeah, so I've been seeing a little bit of that on iRacing. That has been going on for a long time, and I do know, I mean, I'm a Formula One driver, or not a driver, I wish. I'm a Formula One watcher, and I watch all of those drivers go out there, and they're holding the brakes and swerving and getting everything. As you know, brake temperature heats up the tire pressures, gets the tire pressures to where you want them. But apparently that is a glitch from what iRacing is saying. So I think they have finally found a way to outlaw that, which is unfortunate, but Anyways, it doesn't matter. You got disqualified from qualifying, and you still drove through the whole field. So apparently you don't need to hold the brakes, Eduardo, to get back up there in the first place. How was that drive through the field?
It was. You have to be careful around the other drivers. Always, it's a long race, 45 minutes. So you have the time to do it right. You don't wanna have an accident in the few laps, in the first laps. So no, just take your time, do your own thing, pick your pace, and eventually you're gonna pass the slower ones.
Yep, I got you. Well, congratulations there, Eduardo. We're going to have to take a look at the points here going into the final race. The final race of Slow Motion Broadcasting is going to cover of the season, but I think you and Robert Schwenkler are going to have a battle on your hands going into the final race of the season. So we're looking forward to that. But before that, Eduardo, anybody you want to thank, anybody you want to shout out?
Thank you. Yeah, of course, the league and you guys from SMB and everyone from Bryce as usual. Every driver here is doing a great job. So thank you guys for your role in everything, and see you next time.
Absolutely, Eduardo. Congratulations on your first place,
you,
and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, man.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you, man.
That was Eduardo Pecorini there in first place for the TCRs, and we're going to go ahead and pull in second place for the GT3s, Mr. Paul Mikolajczyk. You had one mistake, man, and Kerry drove right on by, but other than that, it looked like you had the pit strat worked out.
Oh, there was no way I was beating Kerry. He was a second faster than me every single lap. I hate that track with a passion. I hate that we're more with Spa, and we had Spa last week, and you obviously saw me not having a great time. So,
well, I mean, yeah, okay. Well, you can say you hate a track, Paul, but if you finish second anywhere, even with 12 drivers on the track, obviously it's not that bad for you. You want to know one track I hate and that I will never do well at, and that's Suzuka. So I kind of feel your pain there, man, but you still took home second. So kind of walk me through. Did you ever think you had a chance to win it? Because you started off with a bang. Straight from the start, you had a great drive, and really you were leaving everybody in the dust for a little while.
yeah, well, I pride myself on my restarts and most things. I just wait to see a change in my screen. I hit the throttle, and it worked. But the pit strat worked for a bit, and I was fast in the parts that I needed to be fast and to pull away from him. But once I got behind Rob, not that Rob was the reason that he passed me. It was just I got distracted because I was like, "Oh my God, it's Rob! Hello!" And then he just dove it inside of me, going into the hairpin. I'm down in the first straight, or second straight, third straight. I don't know, whatever it is.
There's quite a bit of straights on this track. But anyways, it is what it is. You took second place there, Paul, but you always got next week, man. How are you feeling about it?
Well, I haven't bought the track yet, and I've only raced on F1, and that's a pain.
Well, it definitely is, and let me tell you about racing F1 compared to iRacing. It is nothing alike, and I'm sure you know that, but you got a week to get some practice in, man, so we'll hope to talk to you again next week. But anybody you want to thank, anybody you want to shout out before we get to that point?
Well, you, Adam, looks like you did a solo job in the broadcast today, so that must have been a little bit tough, so thank you for doing that. JRB Motorsports, and yeah, that's it.
Well, I actually did not do a solo job there, Paul. I had Alex Anderson in here with me, but he had to hop off because, as you know, Eastern time zones are way different than Western time zones.
Oh, yeah.
And he has to go to school tomorrow morning. So it is me doing all the interviews, but Paul, thank you so much for your time, and we'll hope to talk to you next week, and go ahead and start practice in Barcelona.
My finals come first, so see you later.
All right, see you, buddy. That was Paul Mikolajczyk there in second place overall, as well as second place in the GT3 class. Next up, we've got Robert Schwenkler here, second place in the TCRs, ended up finishing sixth overall. Robert, congratulations on your second, but I know you wanted that first. He should. Eduardo's just fast, man.
Yeah, it's a big bummer for me. I put in a lot of time, and I was turning lap times during practice during the week, the equivalent to what Eduardo was doing in the race. So, yeah, super bummed. I was having some hardware issues. Not to make excuses, but my throttle was never, unless I mashed it down, it was never getting to 100%. So Yeah, I'm not sure what was up with that, but nonetheless, pretty uneventful race for me. I didn't really see too many people. Like,
Yeah.
I think I got, yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty quiet.
And I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, taking home second, and I talked to Eduardo as well, and we're going to start bringing up the points here between you and Eduardo. It just depends. I believe that after 5th place, I think everything else is worth 1 point. I do believe. So when that comes into play, you and Eduardo are going to be separated by what's looking like about 2 points going into the second to last race of the season. So really, I mean, all you got to do, Rob, is hold on to that second. And you have confidence that you can take home the win or take home the championship.
I mean, I'm gonna try my damnedest. That's all I can do. I mean, I know it's gonna be super tight, and it really depends on how many people we have show up. Like you said, once you get past, I think it's 5th place, they're all separated by 1 point, so it keeps it super tight. So yeah, the more people we have, it's probably gonna keep us in that range. So yeah, just gotta try to keep it clean and do well in these last 2 races.
Yeah, well, you have done well so far, and I think from what we've seen here broadcasting, this race was definitely your best, definitely the cleanest for you, and you were very quick, just not quite quick enough. And we did ask. We asked you a few races ago if you were going to be able to get up to Eduardo Pecorini's pace, and I think you answered that tonight. So looking forward to the race next week at Barcelona. How are you feeling about that track?
Feeling okay. I haven't done any laps in this car yet, so got to put in the time for that. But I know the track, so it's just a matter of getting familiar with this car at that track, and then just putting in the laps. So I'm not too worried, but I know I'm gonna have to put in the time to keep up with Pecco there. So.
Well, you definitely will, and we hope you do, so we can see a let's call it a barn burner there for. For the final race here that Slow Motion Broadcasting may or may not cover. I know you guys have one more after that, more of an endurance race, but we'll kind of see how the cards fall on that one. But Rob, anybody you want to thank, anybody you want to shout out before we let you go?
Yeah, shout out to all the drivers. I mean, I couldn't do it without them. Admins, Paul and James. Big shout out to them. They've been helping me a lot with getting things prepped for season 2, which leads me to say, if anyone's interested in joining the league, we got some changes coming that are probably going to be more interesting for people and more, how should I put it? Let's see here. Interesting, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, if you're interested, reach out to someone at Slow Motion. They can get you in contact with us, and we'll get you in the league.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to my girlfriend Frankie for all her support, and friends and family, and all the people that put up with me playing sim racing games.
You almost said video games there, Rob, but
I did.
Anyways, yeah, if you guys do want to get a hold of us, Cross Touring Cup for season 2 will have GT3s and GT4s, so all the difference in times you guys have been seeing will be totally different come season 2, and
you weren't supposed to say that yet.
Oh, my bad. But you will see yours truly racing in XTC next season as well. So get to race with the commentator if you guys hop in and try to do some racing here in the Cross Touring Cup. But anyways, Rob, thank you for all your time, and we'll talk to you hopefully next week.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much.
That was Robert Schwenkler there, second place in the TCRs. And now we're going to pull in third place in the GT3s, but it wasn't without a whole lot of drama there by Jaden Darling on the pit exit. Jake Ham, you were able to take P3, but Jaden didn't even let you go after you got by him.
Yeah, what a heck of a race. I spun out the beginning like twice, hit the grass a couple times, and then I was like, no chance. We'll just keep it clean, and avoided a couple other accidents that were kind of fun to avoid. And but yeah, Jaden, I don't know what happened. I haven't even watched the replay. Did he get caught up or something in the pits or something, or?
Well, no. So what he did, so you guys were on 2 different pit strategies. He was on a bit of an earlier. He was on about a 3-lap earlier pit strat than you were on. And when he came out of the pits, I do believe, obviously he didn't take top 3, so I'm not going to be able to talk to him, but I think his tires just got cold and he went into turn 1 and just drove it in deep and got into the sand, and you drove right on by.
Yeah, he sent me a message, tell me good comeback. And I feel bad taking a podium for somebody, a little small off track like that. But hey, third place is third place. Not complaining.
Hey man, racing is racing, and that's if you talk to any race car driver, be it in the sim or in real life, they'll tell you the same thing. But congratulations on your third place, Jake. How are you looking? You feeling good about Barcelona, or you still need to put some time in there?
I don't even know where that's at, so I definitely put some time into it. So we'll see how that goes. That's about how today went. So we'll see how next week goes.
All right. Well, Jake, anybody you want to thank? Anybody you want to shout out before we let you go, man?
Heck yeah, you guys, Slow Motion Broadcasting, and let's see, Indie Auto, and then Mike Browning for all my paints. Appreciate it. With the retro schemes, looking good.
Yeah, speaking of your paints, we had a bit of somebody talking. Hannibal Moore Bill Baker said, Jake's car makes me want to go to the Max with Zach Morris and AC Slater. So
that's my neighbor. I love it. He's on there supporting. He's a good guy. Hey, also, plug here, Bill might be able to start making replicas of cars for us.
Oh.
Ooh.
Well,
yeah, Hot Wheel size.
Well, let's we got to get a hold of Bill Baker there.
Mm-hmm.
We got some leagues that may want that. But anyways, Jake, thank you so much for your time, man, and we hope to talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That was Jake Ham there, third overall, I apologize, in the GT3 class, as well as third overall. Now, for the final broadcast of the night, I promise you may be last, but you're not least, Chad. Congratulations there on your third place in the TCR. Kind of walk me through it. I know it got a bit sketchy. You were able to get around James Keir for that third position, but man, you guys had a battle there for a little while.
Dude, the whole first half of this was a clown show for me. So this is one of those examples that I always tell my son, never give up, because you just don't know. It's not over till it's over. And I ironically binned the car out of the kink, got wide, and that's when James got by me at the beginning of the race because he'd made a mistake and I got ahead of him. So he got by me there. I was following him about 5 seconds behind for the rest of that lap, and the car was still working all right, but I'd been meatball flagged, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to go in. And as I'm rounding that last bend, it's like, your pit window is now open. I'm like, oh my God, talk about timing. So I go in and I pit. So it basically worked out that I didn't lose a whole lot from that pretty disastrous crash. Got my fast repair, came out. Unfortunately, Jerry must have had some issue there because I came out ahead of him. And then I was hoping to, see where I came out with James, but I was still 5 seconds back. And then so we spent the second half after his pit. I was chasing him down. I was nipping away at that 5 seconds, but it wasn't until he made a mistake that I got into about 2 seconds. And then we're, dealing with traffic back and forth, getting close and back and forth. And finally, another little mistake going onto the front straight. So I had the drive and just drove by him there. So yeah, it was pretty fun. I was pretty frustrated at the beginning. I'm like, oh man, off the start, there was no, I wasn't ready. And all of a sudden it's green. I'm like, oh shit, we're going green. Everybody drove by me except for Kevin, who was right behind me and kind of stuck there.
Yeah, well, it's sometimes when going green, you think when the lights drop at every track races and stuff, but every now and then they seem to drop in weird spots, right? And I know that's probably just us not paying attention, but I'm still going to blame it on iRacing. Nonetheless.
Well, I don't believe in these rolling starts either. Like you said, I'm a Formula One fan. So Superbike, MotoGP, Formula One, we all start standing.
Well, I'm telling you what, when you guys had that standing start last week, I think that was the most exciting start that we've ever seen. So maybe you need
I gained 2 positions on that.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember. Hit up the admins over there and say, hey, why don't we go ahead and keep this standing? Because that was a pretty good race. But anyways, Chad, you still came home P3 in the TCR class, 7th overall. Anybody you want to thank? Anybody you want to shout out?
Of course,
Here it comes.
Claiming that's Racing Talc.
Yep, there
if
it
you
is.
must give them a dust by swellpals.com. And yeah, I'd like to, shout out to the next generation of sim racers and my son Dario Sipe. That's you, boy. And yeah, I just want to thank all you guys who do such a great job. This series admins and Slow Motion Broadcasting. Thanks.
Awesome, Chad. Well, thank you so much, man. And you haven't heard the last of us yet. We're going to be sticking around here, it sounds like, for quite a while. So definitely looking forward to covering more of the races and watching you claw your way back through the field. But with that being said, man, thank you so much for your time, and we hope to talk to you next week. I do have to ask you before you go, what are you thinking about Barcelona?
Barcelona. I like it.
All right. That's easy enough. We'll talk to you then, Chad. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. See you, Adam. Take care.
That was Chad Seep there. 7th overall, 3rd in class, and that rounds out our interviews tonight. So yeah, my name is Adam Thompson. I have been joined, or was joined, by Alex Anderson. He was not able to finish throughout the whole rest of the race. He obviously had to get up and do some stuff tomorrow morning. But with that being said, guys, we do have one more race that is for sure covered here by Slow Motion Broadcasting. That's next week at Barcelona. And then following that, I do believe they do have a longer race at Daytona. So hopefully we can cover the rest of those 2 races. And you did hear Robert Schwenkler say they are looking for drivers. If you guys are trying to get into this, go ahead and just comment on one of these videos, and I will get you in touch with the admins of Cross Touring Cup. But for now, my name is Adam Thompson. I was joined in the commentary booth by Alex Anderson. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful Wednesday night. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you again not next week, but the week after that, here for Barcelona. Goodbye.